Dornbush download 124. Andrew Michael again. Dan was meant to be here. I said to Dan, time for Dornbush download and crickets. He did a runner. So I don't think he's got bad news for his clients. He's just maybe feeling a bit shiter. I noticed he had a haircut, so maybe he's feeling a bit sensitive about his haircut. What is it? 3 days between a good and a bad haircut? Yeah, I remember those days when I had hair to have those rules. But anyway, profit reporting season. So what's happening?
So far so good, Andrew. Yeah, a couple of big hitters today, of course. Commonwealth Bank, CSL, Wesfarmers, and so far so good by all accounts.
Well, let's deal with them in order. Combank's result. Everyone was a bit, not nervous, but, it is the bellwether from the banks. And if people want a bit of a read as to how the banking sector's going, sure, we've had the update from NAB, but they really want to hear how Combank is going. And the Combank result was good, in line, if not above expectations. Only 4.9 billion after tax. Tracking certainly for this year, if not this year, definitely next year, $10 billion after tax profit. So, everyone loves to bash the banks and, with some reason to do so, but equally so the amount of tax that they pay, it's just huge. Bearing in mind, I just heard this morning, 86% of personal income tax is paying our welfare bill. If that doesn't make you sort of lose some sleep at night, I don't know what will. Anyway, the Commonwealth Bank dividend was 1 cent higher, so $1.99. You'd have to think they'd be going, surely we can find another cent.
Let's round it up. Let's make it nice and easy.
But that's $4.21 for the year, so it's around 5% fully franked. And probably most pleasingly from our point of view was that the bad and doubtful debts remain flat. And, that's something we keep stressing to our clients. When you're seeing that bad and doubtful debts charge, there's people going bad, not being able to pay their loans. That's a huge issue, not only because they're losing money, but also because that puts a threat to the dividend. So as long as those bad and doubtful debt charges stay okay. So the Combank result was all right. What was it?
And to put it into some perspective too, Andrew, I think the bad and doubtful debts were 17 basis points, which is 0.17% of the total loan value. So it is literally a drop in the ocean.
It is a family-friendly show, so we'll just say 2/3 of... Insert your favourite swear word there. Wesfarmers. So Wesfarmers' result was a cracker, 1.6 billion, driven by the coal result. Interestingly, just as we've walked in here, they've announced they're going to sell Officeworks. Either through a trade sale or a stock market float. And they're saying they've basically doubled the business since 2009. It's returning about a 14% return on shareholders' funds, which is pretty good. But remembering that Wesfarmers, they're very regimented. If it doesn't return at least 16% on shareholders' funds, it's out the door. Only returning 14%. I'd personally love to own Officeworks, but because it's not meeting their guidelines, it's out. So they had a 12% increase in dividend from 91 cents to $1.03, $1.04. So they're yielding, if they keep that sort of tracking, around 5.7% fully franked. So a cracking result from Wesfarmers. They also announced yesterday that they've got a new CEO starting at the end of the year as well, or end of the calendar year. Only the 8th in 103 years, and again, someone from within the business. So Wesfarmers looking good. I've been buying it all morning. Probably the thing we need to bear in mind though with Wesfarmers is, drum roll, Amazon. That's the big threat coming, but also for Woolies and anybody else in retail as well.
Those supermarket margins are just going to continue, and they're literally 4% as they stand at the moment. So there's very little margin in supermarket businesses. So the introduction of Amazon and the other big players that continue to roll through just going to put more pressure on those margins. And
absolutely. And a special hello to the Queensland Police and Fire Brigade as they go tearing past.
Maybe not so much as a worry for Wesfarmers. A big proportion of the revenue comes, but certainly Woolworths.
Well, Woolies is around 85% supermarkets, whereas Wesfarmers is only about 60%. Still big part. And you're right, they've got world best margins. And so I'm Amazon and I'm going beauty. I'm going to get stuck into this. And that's why the speculation is they were meant to come next month and just do, your DVDs and, all that sort of stuff. But because they're allegedly looking also at fresh food, that's why it's been put back to sort of September, October. Even though I've been buying it aggressively today, warning to everybody, just be careful. Amazon will probably take 15% market share year one. So that certainly is a big threat, as you're saying.
And he's done a good job, Richard Goyder, too, hasn't he? He had big shoes to fill when Michael Chaney left, but he's been up to the task. And but they've got a great tradition, haven't they, of being able to bring in existing people. They know the drill, literally. And it's usually a pretty seamless sort of changeover.
And I know we're going a little bit long here, but you're spot on about Goyder. Goyder got the poison chalice. He took over the job in 2007. How good am I? I buy Coles, and GFC comes along. And they couldn't roll the debt over. They were in a lot of trouble. And the share price went from like $40 down to about 12 or 13, I think.
They did that share purchase plan at $13 or something, and holy moly, it was looking a bit dicey, absolutely.
As it was with a number of companies, But he is successfully, obviously the whole Wesfarmers team, but he leading the team has done a great job in transforming that business. So great work, Richard.
Well done, Rich.
Well done. And then the last one, big download for him. All the Wesfarmers guys are going, we were mentioned in the Dornbush download. And then the last one is, I think you mentioned Class 1 Super, which is my little favourite. So for those playing at home, CL1 is the code. They do self-managed super fund administration for accountants. Love the accountants. But interestingly, they're now starting to move into that cloud-based software for companies, trusts and individuals. They've only got about 400 so far, but that's a huge area because you and I both know that market is just dreadful. There's nobody out there. There's people willing to charge you lots of money, but as in the context of a reliable product, it's just terrible. So the Class 1 result was good, 38% increase in profit, still no debt, 70% profit margins, 99% client retention rates. But like with all these emerging leader companies that we've spoken about over the last 3 or 4 months, the big stick has been out. They went from about $4.20 or $30 all the way down to $2.60. On the back of that result, they're now back to about $3.05, $3.10, something like that. So
and there are good themes supporting it, Andrew, aren't there? I mean, the broad-based self-managed super fund market continues to grow. Organically, that's just going to support these guys into the future. So, but as you say, diversification into other areas. Yeah, things are looking pretty bright there, particularly after a big sell down in the shares over the last 6 months.
And if you compare and contrast that to the Reckon result, which was pretty ordinary. One of the reasons is they're having to spend so much R&D money trying to keep up with the Zeros of the world and the Class 1s of the world. So if we're talking a threat to the business, that's probably the biggest threat, that it becomes a bit of an arms war on research and development. But at this stage, Class 1's winning and also Zero. But we can talk about Zero another day. Anything from you?
No, that's it, Andrew. Another busy week, so there'll be heaps more to talk about next week. I guess probably the only other thing, Telstra tomorrow. We might have a bit of a rundown on that next week, but probably another one of the big hitters that a lot of clients are owning. Be interested to see how they go.
And in particular, how they're managing that transit, or how they will manage that transition with that NBN money, because that NBN money is going to start running out soonish, and how they're going to transition their business. But anyway, we won't take that away. That'll be for next week. Till next week.
Thank you.